Amelia's diary, April 4th. I heard the noise before I saw him. Thuds, boxes scraping. A man's voice, low and apologetic, laughing nervously with the landlord. I pressed pause on my music and moved closer to the door, not right up against it, just enough to hear, just enough to wonder. Someone new moving in across the hall. I stood there for a full minute before I did the one thing I always tell myself not to do. I peeked. I opened the door slightly, pretending to. I don't know what I was pretending to do, I just wanted to take a quick peek at what was going on. Just the briefest of glances out my due, but still clear enough to make out his face. And God, his face. Tall, strikingly tall. Mixed features, maybe? Pale olive skin, sharp cheekbones, and thick jet black hair that flopped over his forehead. He wore a black hoodie and carried a cardboard box like it weighed nothing. His expression was calm, but there was something thoughtful in it too. Like he was really seeing the hallway. Like he was looking. He looked like he belonged in a film. One of those indie romance ones where the guy plays guitar and broods by windows. The kind of person who turns heads without meaning to. And definitely not the kind who would notice someone like me. I ducked back before he could catch me staring, heart hammering like I'd committed a crime. Which is ridiculous. It's not illegal to look, right? But I felt it anyway, that flush of embarrassment, that need to disappear. I haven't had a real conversation with anyone in weeks, months, if I'm honest. The only human contact I get lately is the woman who drops off my groceries and the barista at the cafe who knows my order by heart but not my name. And now, this beautiful man is living across the hall. He'll probably make 100 friends by the weekend. Naomi from 3B will flirt with him by Thursday. Someone will throw a party, and he'll go and laugh and meet people and live. And me, I'll still be here, listening for his footsteps like a ghost behind a door. Maybe if I were different, bolder, louder, I'd knock on his door and say hello. But I won't. I know I won't. Maybe he is nice. Maybe he is a homebody. Maybe he cooks. Maybe he misses home. Maybe I'm projecting. But when the noise stopped and his door closed softly behind him, I found myself standing there just a little longer than I meant to, listening. I don't even know his name, but I already know he's going to matter.
Hi, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out. Please take a moment to press the subscribe button so I can keep doing what I'm doing.
Kaido's journal, April 4th. First night in the new flat. Boxes everywhere. My record player's already set up though. I couldn't wait. I put on a Miles Davis album while unpacking and let it echo off the bare walls. Jazz feels like company. Doesn't ask too much, doesn't talk over you. This building's quieter than I expected. The walls are thick, the hall's kind of dim. Not cold exactly, just still. Stillness can be nice though, at least for now. What surprised me was the smell in the hallway. Ginger, soy, maybe garlic, something warm and homey. It stopped me in my tracks, actually. For a second I thought of Mom, her kitchen in Osaka, the way she'd hum while stirring something on the stove. I almost said her name out loud. Then I noticed the door across from mine. Just as I turned, I felt it, that subtle shift in the air, like someone was watching. I glanced quickly, and for a heartbeat, I caught a glimpse. A girl. Or maybe a woman, early 20s? Hair pulled up, a loose sweater. She moved so fast I couldn't see much, just the way she vanished behind her door like a shadow melting into the wall. But in that sliver of time, our eyes met. She didn't smile, she didn't wave, she just looked. It wasn't cold, though. It was careful. I wonder if she's the one who cooked. That smell, it still lingers. Makes this hallway feel less lonely than it should. She seems shy, quiet. But there's something soft in her. I can feel it, even from across the hall. Maybe I'm imagining it, but I don't think so. I hope she says hello. Not because I need it, but because I want it. It's strange. I moved here for a reset, a new city, a new routine. I expected to feel detached for a while. Alone, sure, but I didn't expect her. I don't know her name, but I already know I'll be listening for her footsteps.
Amelia's diary, April 9th. I was coming up the stairs with my mail when I heard that annoying laugh. Loud, glittering, like the sound of someone who never doubts they're wanted. I knew it was her even before I turned the corner. Naomi, from 3B. She was standing at his door again, leaning just a little too close, like she belonged there. one foot inside, her arm brushing his as she handed him something. Coffee, I think. Of course it would be coffee. The cute, casual kind you bring someone you like without saying it out loud. And Kaido? Yes, I learned his name through the mailbox. I'm not entirely a recluse. He was smiling. Not a big grin, but that practiced, polite kind of smile that says, I don't want to be rude, but please leave me alone soon. Except Naomi wasn't leaving. She was laughing at something he said, tossing her hair, wearing a handkerchief and a band-aid. I ducked into my apartment before either of them could see me. Then I stood there, just inside the door, holding my mail like a shield. I don't know why I feel this ache. It's not like he was ever mine. I don't even know him. He probably wouldn't even recognize me outside of this hallway, but something about seeing them together hit me in the stomach. He looks like someone who doesn't belong in real life, like one of those K-pop idols on magazine covers. Perfect skin, delicate jawline, eyes that hold 1,000 unspoken things. The kind of person who can wear plain clothes and still look like a campaign model. And her, she's everything I'm not. Confident, effortlessly charming. She walks into rooms like she owns the light. People love that. Men love that. He'll fall for her, obviously. Or maybe he already has. I closed my blinds and turned on my music. Something instrumental, soft, the kind that fills a room without demanding anything. Then I lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling for a long time. I told myself to stop imagining stories that don't exist. He was never going to notice someone like me.
Kaido's journal, April 9th. Naomi showed up again. She knocked like it was a habit, like she assumed I'd want company. She brought coffee, all cheery and flirtatious, like we were old friends or something more. I thanked her, tried to be gracious, but God, her energy exhausts me. It's too loud, too much. She talks fast, laughs faster. Everything about her is on display, like she needs to be seen to feel real. I don't know how to say no to that kind of force without hurting someone. But I wanted to. I kept thinking about the other girl, the one from across the hall. She hasn't spoken to me yet, not really, but I know she's there. Quiet footsteps, the soft sound of music through her walls, that warm smell again. Ginger, soy, a hint of sesame oil maybe. It reminds me of Obashan's cooking, the kind of scent that carries memory in it. I wonder what kind of person she is behind the silence. I saw her this morning just for a second. She was coming up the stairs with her mail, oversized hoodie, hair tucked behind one ear, eyes wide before she looked down. She disappeared into her apartment like a breeze slipping through a crack in the door. But even in that moment, something about her felt calm, like the opposite of all this noise. I wish it was her knocking on my door. I wish she'd come over and sit on the floor with me while I played records. I wouldn't need her to fill the space with jokes or stories. I just want to know the sound of her voice when it's comfortable. I want to see what she draws in the corners of her notebook, or what she thinks about late at night. Naomi's like firecrackers, loud, dazzling, but gone too fast. The girl across the hall, she's like candlelight. And I think I've spent too long in the dark.
Amelia's diary, April 13th. Of all the days for this to happen. I was coming back from the postbox with a stack of proofs from my publisher, sketchbook tucked under my arm, and I saw him, Kaito, coming up the stairs. Just 2 steps above me, turning the corner, hair a little damp from rain, hoodie unzipped, headphones around his neck. I panicked. Like, real panic. Heart thudding, palms sweating, oh God, he's right there kind of panic. I turned too fast, trying to duck into my flat, and that's when it happened. My sketchbook slipped from under my arm, hit the floor, pages fanned open like it was deliberately trying to humiliate me. He crouched down and picked it up before I could grab it. No, 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 I remember whispering, too quiet for him to hear. He was already flipping through the pages. Not fast or careless, but slow, careful, like he knew he was holding something fragile. And then he said it. These are beautiful. Just those 3 words. So soft, but like a shout in the quiet. My throat locked. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the rest of my mail. He turned one of the pages gently, tracing a finger near, but never on the lines. Like he respected the work. Like he understood. You drew these? He asked. I nodded. I think I did. Honestly, I barely remember. I was too busy trying not to combust. He smiled. Not the polite kind, not the let me compliment you so I can keep talking kind. It was real. It reached his eyes. He looked happy. That's what shook me, not the compliment. The fact that it looked like my art made him happy. He handed the book back, and I said something. I think it was thank you, but my voice cracked and it came out too fast. I probably sounded like a nervous teenager or a startled woodland creature. But he just nodded and said, I'd love to see more someday. More. Someday. I floated back into my apartment. My face was on fire. I think I stared at the door for a full 5 minutes after closing it. He saw it all. My little fox characters, the sleepy bear with the rain cloud over its head, the hedgehog with the umbrella made of petals, the little watercolor girl who always looks suspiciously like me. He saw the part of me I never show anyone unless there's a contract involved. And he said it was beautiful. I didn't know how much I needed that. I still don't.
Kaido's journal, April 13th. I've been waiting for the right moment, hoping maybe that she'd say something first. But she never does. Just those fleeting glances and then she's gone, like fog lifting before you can reach it. Today she dropped her sketchbook. Not a notebook, a sketchbook. The moment it hit the ground, I heard the sound, heavy pages and soft paper, and saw something spill out of it. A fox in mid-leap, drawn in ink and shaded with something soft, maybe colored pencil or watercolor. Its little paws curled inward like it was dreaming. She scrambled to pick it up, but I got to it first. And I couldn't help myself. I opened it. Each page was like a window into a secret world. Soft woodland creatures with huge eyes and human emotion tucked into their fur. A sleepy bear curled in a too-small bed. A raccoon wearing spectacles and reading under a lamplight. And a little girl with wild hair and mismatched socks dancing through every story, drawn slightly differently each time, but always with the same wide, wondering eyes. There was so much feeling in every sketch. Gentleness, sadness, joy. It was like reading a lullaby without needing words. When I said they were beautiful, she froze. I thought maybe she didn't want me to see. Maybe I crossed some line. But she didn't pull the book away. She let me look. That meant something. She nodded when I asked if she drew them. Her hands were shaking, though she tried to pretend they weren't. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but all that came out was a squeaky little thank you. It was awkward and perfect and real. She looked like she wanted to disappear, but she didn't. She listened. She stood there, blushing so deeply I thought her cheeks might burn holes in the air. And when I handed the sketchbook back, she met my eyes, just for a second, and smiled. God, her smile. It wasn't practiced or deliberate. It wasn't the kind people give when they know they're being watched. It was unsure, small, but it held something rare, hope. It made me want to protect it like something sacred. I told her I'd love to see more someday. She disappeared into her apartment without saying another word, and I stood in the hallway like an idiot, grinning at a closed door. I can't stop thinking about her drawings. About her. She's a children's book illustrator. I know it now, just by the quality of the work. The design, the colors, the emotions in the characters. That's not amateur, that's professional. She's talented, like seriously talented. I want to ask her about her favorite artists, about the stories behind each animal. If the little girl in the sketches is her, if the bear under the rain cloud was ever me. I want to know how she sees the world. I want to see her again. No more waiting. Next time, I'm gonna knock.
Amelia's diary, April 18th. I was halfway through the complex entrance when I heard the footsteps. Slow, deliberate, not the usual quick shuffle of the neighbors rushing to their flats to escape the rain. I froze. It was him, Kaito. He stood on the landing, his hair damp, a faint drizzle clinging to the edges of his hoodie. His calm eyes looked up at me with that same gentle quietness I'd come to recognize, but now mixed with something new, a kind of hopeful nervousness. I was already panicking. What if I didn't say the right thing? What if I stumbled on my words again like last time? What if he thought I was silly? He smiled, just a small tilt of his lips, not the kind that was polished or rehearsed, but real, like he was bracing himself for something just as scary as I was. "Hi, Amelia," he said softly. My heart almost stopped. "Hi, Kaido," I managed. There was a pause, a tiny breath of silence between us. The rain outside tapped steadily on the window behind me, but here in the hall, it felt like we were alone, suspended in a bubble. He cleared his throat. I was wondering, do you like tea? My mind short-circuited. Tea? With him? I blinked, my hands trembling slightly as I gripped my keys. Yes, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I thought I'd collapse right then and there. He smiled again, and this time I was sure it was because I'd said yes. I have some jasmine tea. If you want, you could come over. Just for a cup. A cup of tea. A simple invitation. But for me, it was everything. I nodded quickly. Okay, I'd like that. He glanced up the stairs toward his flat and then back at me. Shall we? I stepped aside and let him pass, feeling the warmth of the moment chasing away the chill of the rain dripping from his sleeves. Upstairs, his flat was cozy. Books lined the shelves, and the faint scent of jasmine was already in the air. He handed me a cup, steam curling up in lazy spirals. The liquid was light and fragrant, floral without being overpowering. We sat on the floor near the window, where the rain traced patterns on the glass. For a moment, neither of us said anything. I sipped my tea slowly, feeling the warmth spread through me. Then he looked at me. You're really good at drawing, he said quietly. I swallowed. Thank you, I whispered. The air between us felt charged, like everything was about to change, but neither of us wanted to rush it. I glanced down at my hands, still stained with graphite and paint, and felt a flicker of something new. Maybe this was the beginning.
Kaido's journal, April 18th. I've been pacing the flat for days, rehearsing the words in my head. How do you ask a girl you barely know to share something as simple and terrifying as tea? I wanted it to be casual, not a grand gesture, just a small opening, a moment where she might say yes. When I saw her by her door, I almost lost my nerve. She looked so fragile, standing there with the rain dripping off her jacket. Do you like tea? I blurted out before I could second-guess myself. She said yes. That tiny, quiet yes echoed in my chest like a promise. I felt like I'd just jumped into the deep end of a pool, not knowing if I could swim. But I was ready to try. The jasmine tea was steeping when she arrived. I wanted it to be perfect. The kind of tea my mother always made when I was sick as a child. We sat on the floor by the window, watching the rain drip steadily outside. I noticed the way her fingers trembled slightly as she wrapped her hands around the warm cup. I noticed the quiet way she smiled when I complimented her drawings. There's something about her, something soft but strong, like the pictures she draws, full of gentle creatures that somehow carry so much emotion. She's a mystery I want to understand. I wanted to tell her that I've been thinking about her sketches since the first time I saw them. How the little fox seemed alive, ready to leap off the page. How the sleeping bear looked like it carried all the sadness of the world, but still found peace. But instead, I just said, "You're really good at drawing." Her eyes shone with something that made me want to hold that moment forever. Maybe this is the start of something, and maybe, just maybe, she'll bring her sketchbook next time.
Amelia's diary, April 25th. Tonight, I stepped into Kaido's flat again, the way you step into a room you've never been in, but somehow feel you belong. His place was warm, not just from the heating, but from the soft golden light and the faint scent of incense mixed with old books. He put on a vinyl record, an old jazz album with crackling warmth in every note. The music filled the space like a gentle river, and suddenly the room didn't feel so big or lonely. We sat cross-legged on the floor, cups of jasmine tea steaming between us, small and delicate in his hands. The tea was perfect, not too bitter, with just a whisper of floral sweetness. I wondered if he'd remembered how his mother used to make it. He asked about my parents first, like it was the key to something important. I told him about my mom, who loved gardening but never quite had the patience to teach me. About my dad, who was always reading books by the fire and had a laugh that filled the whole house. He listened. Really listened. There was no rush, no awkward silences that needed filling, just an ease I hadn't felt in years. When it was his turn, he told me about his mother, how she cooked the kind of food that makes you feel loved, the smells that brought him back to Tokyo even when he was halfway across the world. His voice softened when he talked about her. and I could see the memories wrapped in every word. I told him about my favorite childhood meal, roast chicken with garlic and rosemary, and the way my mother would hum while she cooked it. He smiled and said he'd like to try it the way I make it sometime. We talked about music next, how jazz felt like the soundtrack of quiet nights, and how sometimes a song could tell stories no words ever could. I felt safe with him, like I was more than just the shy girl who kept her head down in the hallways. I was alive again. My heart was pounding, loud enough that I was afraid he might hear it, but I let it speak anyway. When he laughed, it was like a spark inside me woke up. I laughed too, feeling lighter than I had in a long time. And when the record ended and the room fell quiet, I realized I didn't want the night to end. I'm not sure what this is yet, but I know it's something good.
Kaito's journal, April 25th. I invited her back tonight. I didn't know if she'd say yes, but when she showed up at the door, smiling, I felt something loosen inside me. I put on a vinyl, an old jazz record that my father loved. She sat on the floor, careful with her teacup, eyes bright and open. We talked about our families. She told me about her parents with a tenderness I hadn't expected, the way her voice softened when she mentioned her father's laugh. I told her about my mother's cooking, simple dishes with flavors that carried me back to childhood, even when I was thousands of miles away. She got teary-eyed when I described it, and I wanted to reach out to brush a loose strand of hair from her face, but I held back. It wasn't the right moment yet. Her laughter is light and genuine. I haven't heard it like that in a while. There was a moment when she looked at me, really looked, and I felt something move inside. Like maybe I wasn't alone in this. We talked about music. She likes jazz. I never thought I'd meet someone who shared that. The music, the tea, her company, it all wrapped around me like a quiet comfort I didn't know I needed. I watched her as she spoke, soft and thoughtful. Every word she said stayed with me. Tonight I felt at peace.
Amelia's Diary, May 2nd. It's been a week since that night of tea and music, and somehow things have started to change. Today, I found myself waiting by the door a little longer than usual, hoping to hear his footsteps in the hallway. When they came, steady and familiar, I felt a rush of warmth, the kind you get when you know someone might become important. We didn't say much at first, just a quiet hello and a shy smile. Then, Kaito surprised me by asking if I wanted to go for a walk. Outside, the air was cool and fresh, and the city felt less overwhelming, more inviting. We talked about everything and nothing, about small things like the kind of coffee we liked, and bigger things like what we missed about our families. He told me stories about growing up between two worlds, Japan and here, and how sometimes it felt like he was living in between too. I shared little pieces of myself, the parts I usually kept hidden. Walking beside him, I felt more alive than I have in years, like the walls I'd built around myself were slowly coming down. At one point, I caught him looking at me in that calm, steady way that made my heart flutter. I don't know what the future held, but right then it felt like maybe, just maybe, I could take a step towards something new.
Kaito's journal, May 2nd. I asked her to take a walk today, and she said yes. It felt like a small victory, but also something much bigger. We moved slowly, side by side, talking quietly as the city buzzed around us. She's the kind of person who listens, really listens, but she also lets you in, little by little. She told me about the parts of herself she keeps to herself, the fears, the hopes. I told her about growing up caught between two worlds, never quite feeling fully at home in either. At one point, she laughed softly at something I said, and I felt my chest tighten. There's a gentleness in her that makes it easy to imagine a future where I don't have to feel so alone. For a moment, I wanted to reach out and hold her hand, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I just walked beside her, letting the silence and the city fill the space between us. It's strange how small moments like this can mean everything. I'm not sure where this is going, but I want to find out. Kaito's journal, 2 years later. Today was our wedding day. I still can't quite put into words how I felt watching Amelia walk up the aisle toward me. The woman who used to hide behind closed doors, so shy and quiet, was standing there so radiant and confident. The soft smile on her face, the way her eyes shone with a mix of joy and calm strength, made my heart feel like it would burst. She's no longer the girl I first saw, trembling when I complimented her sketchbook. She's blossomed like a rose flower, beautiful, inside and out. Everyone says I'm the luckiest man alive to have found her, and they're right. But they don't know the half of it. They don't know the nights when she doubted herself, or the way she fought to come out of her shell. They don't know how she paints stories with her art, how she breathes life into every page she creates for the children who read her books. They don't know the way her laugh fills a room, or how she makes our house feel like a home. I do, and I know exactly how lucky I am. I promised myself that day, when I first heard her say yes to tea, that I would hold on to her with everything I have. Today, surrounded by family and friends, I made that promise again. I will cherish her, protect her, and stand beside her through whatever comes, because she is my home, and I never want to let her go.